an eventful morning here. My dog Jojo ate a stick and he just threw it up, and he feels very, very sorry for himself right now. So maybe he'll make an appearance here, but he's in a very sad little ball at my feet right now. So don't eat sticks, folks. Today we're going to talk about why the Protestant Reformation is the reason that we don't care enough about the arts. So this may seem entirely disconnected, but the reason I moved this to Wednesdays was because I'm taking a class on theories of inequality at Vanderbilt. I'm just auditing it, but I can't stay out of school for too long, apparently. And it's really fascinating. Hey, Dawn, good morning. Hope you're having a good morning out there in California. It's really fascinating. It's some texts I've never read before. Some I have in undergrad, but I am at a place in life that make a lot more sense. They make a lot more sense now. So in my opinion, and you're welcome to present an argument to this if you would like, but in my opinion, we do not care enough about the arts. We barely care about the arts, especially in the United States, but I would argue in Western Europe, in a lot of these highly capitalistic, highly individualistic societies, we only care about arts to the extent to which they serve us, and we don't really think about artists as this integral population of society who are producing something that we really need as a society. So we need art, right? Like we need music, we need theater, we need ballet, we need all of these things keep us sane and grounded and a lot happier than we would be without them. And so there was an interesting tie-in when I was doing reading last week. I read where did it go? Oh, it's literally right in front of me. The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism by Max Weber, which is very dense, but it's very interesting. And this was a quick, 3-minute summary of what it all means. Yes, Dustin says we've lost the communal aspect. We absolutely have. And it's very sad. And it's very hard right now, too, because we're in the middle of, especially in the United States, a lot of venues are still shut down. A lot of movie theaters and all of these things that we normally have access to, we can't even go to right now. So it's really hard. So Max Weber basically says Protestant Reformation, one of the big things that came out of that was the concept of predestination. So this idea that as a population, you're either saved or you're not, and you don't get a say, like you're just born and you are either going to heaven or you're going to hell. And it doesn't matter what you do on earth. It does not matter. You can meditate for your whole life, and if you're doomed, you're doomed. Like it doesn't matter what you do. So the big question that came out of the concept of predestination was, well, how do you know if you're saved or you're doomed? There was this idea that an individual couldn't know. So you could go through your whole life and be totally unsure what was going to happen when you walk up to the gates of heaven and have a chat with John Lennon. That was not an option in the Protestant Reformation days. But how do you know if you're saved? How do you know? So people went through life with this intense fear that wasn't necessarily present before the Protestant Reformation. Weber talks about it as taking the magic out of a lot of things. So the mysticism and the ethereal elements of the Catholic Church were all stripped away, largely stripped away, and there was this intense fear that was instilled in society. So how do you know if you're saved? Well, according to folks like John Calvin, if you faithfully labor in your calling, which is a new idea at that time, this idea of the calling as a divinely ordained thing that you do while you're alive. If you faithfully labor in that calling, then you are pleasing God. So even if you are not sure if you're saved, you're at least pleasing God while you're alive. And some folks said it was a means of attaining this certainty of grace. So if you want to try and maximize your chances of going to heaven, you should work so hard that you don't have time for anything else in life. So here's an important break economically too. So taking religion completely out of the picture, before the Protestant Reformation, folks worked to meet their needs and not really beyond that. So there was a lot more leisure time. Not for everybody. Obviously, there were slaves and indentured servants and all these forms of bondage before the Protestant Reformation. However, if you were a member of in feudalistic times, you would only work to meet your needs and not beyond that. So Protestant Reformation ushered in this idea of like, no, you should work as much as you can, because the more you work, the more you're pleasing God. And the more you please God, the better chance you have of attaining grace at the end of the day. So this also, additionally, for the employer side of things, employers and folks who were arguably oppressing others, that was also their divine calling. So the Protestant Reformation ushered in this concept of like, it's okay to exploit labor because your calling is divinely ordained. So God says that we should just work all the time. And if you're employing people, like, your employees should work all the time. And so in case you're not getting the drift here, this had massive implications for modern day society, where we work. And if we are not feeling like we're productive enough members of society, it's very frowned upon. This idea of like Audre Lorde's idea of rest, and how crucial rest is, and how rest is absolutely revolutionary. That's not an exaggeration. Rest is something that was done away with the Reformation, and we've been really bad as a society at trying to pull that back into ourselves. And this certainly speaks to me. I have definitely put work above a lot of things for a lot of my life. And I think it's probably folks in the Western world anyway could say the same thing. All that to say, what on earth does this have to do with valuing the arts? So it's almost as a side note in Weber's work here in the Protestant ethic, but he talks about Puritanism and Calvinism and these religious ideas that split off during the Reformation. Where in this realm of work, in this realm of predestination, where on earth do the arts fit in? And so Weber says that the Puritans and the Calvinists tolerated the arts, but I'm going to read a quote. The toleration of pleasure in cultural goods, or the arts, which contributed to purely aesthetic or athletic enjoyment, so we're also talking about sports, certainly always ran up against one characteristic limitation: they must not cost anything. So we can have the arts, but they've got to be free. So this set up an incredible structure where we exploit artists more than we exploit anybody else in society, because it's tolerable to enjoy things for aesthetic or athletic purposes. And you could argue we exploit athletes for the same reason. And it set up this system of continually exploiting artists to an exponential degree, because we view the cultural goods as something that we shouldn't pay for. So if we shouldn't pay for the arts, then why would we think that even if something is adding value to our lives, even if we would happily pay $20 for an object that would bring a similar amount of happiness as a concert would, we view the concert as something we shouldn't have to pay for because it's a cultural good. And because we've had this idea since the early 1600s that cultural goods should be free. So it sets up this incredible system of devaluation for the arts and artists, and all these folks who have been taken for granted for hundreds of years now. And obviously I am a very subjective voice in this because I am an artist and I'm working in this field, and this concept of being devalued. I have endless examples. And if you're a musician out there watching this, please feel free to add your own in the comments because I would love to hear some other stories. But there are all sorts of things that happen on hired gigs. Like once I played a wedding that they promised us dinner, but we had to eat behind, like they set up a very separated spatial area for us to go eat behind the kitchen next to the porta potties that were outside. And so it's like, we'll feed you, but you can't be fed in the same space as us or even like adjacent to us. There were plenty of rooms. This was a very wealthy person. We had to be put outside because we're not actually like contributing to society in a way that is going to mean anything in the end. Again, like these are, and over time, and Weber talks about this too, over time, these ideas were distilled out of religion and really instilled into capitalism writ large. And he invokes Benjamin Franklin as a good example of that. So somebody who was an atheist, but had this really strong conception of, no, time is money, and the more you work, the more your labor means to society. And it turned from a religious thing and a way to please God as a way to be a profitable member of society, was as this wage labor, as something that led to accumulation of wealth. So, and that's another aspect of it too, right? Like if you're not adding to the accumulation of wealth, you can go see a Broadway play and you're not any wealthier at the end than you were at the beginning in monetary terms. But, and that's all that mattered to this idea of the Protestant calling, is that you were producing surplus value for somebody. So this is why we don't value the arts. Let me know what you think out there in social media land. I would love your thoughts on this. This was a complete side note to anything I was really going over in my class. And again, it's a side note in the Protestant Ethic. If you have this book, if you've read this book, it's on page 170 of my copy. So he doesn't really go into it, but I think that that this framework is why we are having trouble saving our arts right now. It's why we are okay with watching a virtual concert and not feeling like that deserves any of our money. And all of these ways in which we are, I would argue, systematically devaluing creativity and creative product rather than monetary product. So that's your Wednesday morning. These are all going to be on Wednesday mornings now. And I will probably have lots more material to talk about from these classes. If you haven't listened to Where the Ocean Meets the Bay, it is out and about and flapping its little baby wings over the streaming services, which is another way that we systematically devalue artists. But there's no way to not participate in it if you want folks to hear you. So that's a topic for another day, I think. I hope you are all well. And Max Weber, Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism. Maybe I'll write a sequel that will be the Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Systematically Devaluing creators. So go out and support an artist today. It doesn't have to be me. I don't care who it is. Find a visual artist, find a dancer, find an actor, find somebody who is putting their heart and soul into something that is consistently sent out back by the porta potties to eat. So yes, yeah. Don just said, I feel obligated to tip artists for entertaining me, and that is definitely, like, there are people out there who value the arts, and I am eternally grateful for those people, and artists wouldn't be able to do what we do without people like you. So thank you if you are somebody who values the arts. And I'm not saying that everybody devalues the arts, but I think as it's a systematic problem, right? So it's like at the larger societal issue that we don't at large encourage the arts as like a meaningful way of contributing to society. But thank you for your support, because I know that you constantly are supporting artists, and if you're one of those people, thank you. So go support an artist this week. And I self-plug, because why not? I have a Labor Day sale going on. If you don't have any of my work, I've got my CDs are half off right now, so they're $5 each. You can go pick them up in my store right now if you so desire. And I've got the new single out, so go listen to it today if you haven't heard it yet. And let me know what you think about predestination and its effects on the creative population. Right. Have a great